Item number 8, which is Advancing Resilience in Flagstaff, a framework for action.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Jenny Neiman, Climate Program Manager. I am really excited tonight to introduce our partners in the Climate Science and Solutions Program at NAU. This is a really exciting sort of collaboration between the city and our climate program and the Climate Science and Solutions adaptation class for the fall. We work quite a lot with NAU programs, particularly this program, but this gave us a chance to really dig in, to really work hand in hand with this class as they really dug into resilience in Flagstaff, into the changing climate and what we're going to see. But they really went above and beyond to start talking about recommendations, to start talking about tools, to really think about engaging the community, much due to your feedback when we last spoke in September, as well as feedback they got from other commissions and talking with the community. So I am really thrilled tonight to present Pilar and Jalen, who are really representing their colleagues, some of which who are here tonight. So just a really big thank you to the two of you, as well as to all of your cohort for some really outstanding work that I'm really excited will contribute to sort of our work and our resources as we move forward as a city. So thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Good evening, Mayor and Council. As Jenny mentioned, my name is Jay Garys, and I am a first-year student in the Masters of Climate Science and Solutions program at NAU. And I, along with my classmate Pilar, will be speaking on behalf of our class, presenting our semester project, which is the Flagstaff Adaptation and Resilience Resource Document. And thank you, everyone, for having us this evening. So as a refresher from our conversation in September, I just wanted to go over some of our project goals for the semester. The first being working with the City Council, as we did in September, as well as the different city commissions in the community, to figure out what is most important that they would like to see in this resource document. The second goal that we wanted to achieve this semester was to consolidate already existing climate adaptation documents that the city has provided to create a community-friendly and comprehensive resource document. And then finally, we wanted to establish a toolkit which increases the community's climate change resilience as a whole. So I also wanted to go over a brief timeline of the semester project. The first aspect was actually writing the document utilizing existing climate documents by the city combined with existing climate research. Secondly, we met, as I mentioned, with commission, city council, and the community to tailor the document to community needs and values. Third, using the research compiled in the document, we have created a toolkit in the form of action items for each sector most impacted by climate change in Flagstaff. The fourth part of the project was producing a video series summarizing the main points covered in each content section. And then finally, we are presenting our project for further action and review. And now Pilar will go into some of the more details of the project as well as introduce some of the content of the document itself.
Thank you, Jay. So as Jay mentioned, as part of this project, we thought it would be beneficial to involve council and various commissions. So with the goal of obtaining feedback, the framework of the project was presented in September to the City Council, Sustainability Commission, the Diversity Awareness Commission, and the Inclusion and Adaptive Living Commission. With the Inclusion and Adaptive Living Commission, there was a strong emphasis on ensuring that those with disabilities are not disproportionately burdened by climate actions. One specific example that came up referenced a disabled community member whose access to their home was impeded by the placement of concrete barriers, which were initially placed with the intent of protecting the home from flooding. Throughout all of these meetings, we were encouraged to engage with the public and students at NAU. And so with this, we decided to do some public outreach, which included a survey and a public forum. Both the survey and the public forum were promoted at the NAU Open Air Market, the Flagstaff Farmers Market, and the Urban Flea Market. We also used flyers and emails to spread the word about these. So with the public forum, all attendees expressed concern of fires and floods, and then population growth as well as vulnerable communities. In the public forum, improving education and strengthening communities was proposed as a way to improve resilience in Flagstaff. With the survey, nearly all participants also expressed high concern of fires and floods, as well as water scarcity and increased costs in living. And then the survey found that of the Flagstaff projects and programs in place to help address climate change impacts, participants were least familiar with the Resilient Neighborhoods Network. So in tackling this project, we kind of decided to use a three-pronged approach. So in short, our document serves as a resource document in adapting to climate change and increasing resilience. It also comes with a list of action items and solutions which can be practiced by communities and individuals. And then finally, each section in the document is accompanied by a 3 to 5 minute video. These videos were made by their respective content groups with the intent of basically just being a little more comprehensive. Not everyone is going to want to read a 60-page document, so these videos will be available so that people can easily just get a quick and brief overview of the key takeaways and points in each section. Getting into our document structure, it begins with an introduction which acknowledges Flagstaff's location, its land, and its people. It then gets into some important definitions that should be known before diving further into the document. It also touches on some physical and climate science as it relates to Flagstaff, and just impacts that Flagstaff is already experiencing from climate change, such as rising temperatures and aridity, and shifting precipitation patterns. The introduction also gives recognition to justice and equity within Flagstaff and gives an overview of the project methodology and content breakdown, emphasizing that this document does not elaborate on mitigation strategies but adaptation strategies, and is a working resilience resource document. Following our introduction, we have our 5 content groups, which are public health, infrastructure and housing, natural environment, and water supply and resources, and tourism and recreation. These topics were chosen for each section to align with the sectors that Flagstaff used in their vulnerability assessment, which are listed here. And then each of the content section includes components of an introduction or a background into that topic, some societal impacts, economic impacts brought by climate change, and then solutions in the form, or solutions and action items in the form of a toolkit. The introduction also gives credit to resources used in this document. So throughout the document, we've incorporated information from 4 of Flagstaff's already existing documents, which are also listed here. And then we have also used some outside resources, which include but are not limited to the latest IPCC report and some scientific journal articles. So getting into our first content section, we have public health. This section of the document emphasizes areas in which Flagstaff needs to focus on or prepare for, such as increasing capacity to address mental health issues. We're seeing more and more climate anxiety, not enough time being spent outdoors by people, and then financial stress is also taking a toll on mental health. We have healthcare and emergency response systems, so we're seeing an increasing demand for workers and systems following extreme events such as fires and floods. Also an increase in heat-induced illnesses and respiratory issues, as well as diseases that come with extreme events such as West Nile or Valley fever. And then climate migration to Flagstaff, so people moving in from the valley in search of cooler temperatures. The public health section also focuses on disproportionate impacts on vulnerable communities, so exposure to poor air quality and extreme events. Neighborhoods in low-lying regions or areas are more prone to floods, and homes pushed up against forests in the event of a fire are basically breathing that smoke in their backyard, not to mention the danger from the fire itself. And then cost and access to health care and expense of increased need for cooling. Not a lot of homes in Flagstaff were built with cooling systems, but as temperatures continue to rise, we're seeing more and more people installing cooling systems into their homes. The Public Health Toolkit includes a neighborhood help map. Something like the Nextdoor app could be used to create something like a neighborhood help map. The toolkit also suggests planting trees to reduce exposure to heat-related illnesses and creating emergency plans and preparedness kits. Our second content section is infrastructure and housing. So this content gets into some transportation infrastructure such as roads and bridges. Climbing temperatures are likely going to damage roads and bridges, as well as extreme events like fires and floods, which will eventually lead to increased costs in maintenance. This section also goes into energy infrastructure, so hotter temperatures and other extreme events lead to an increasing demand in in energy, which drives up energy costs and disproportionately affects lower income residents. And then there's the potential for utility lines and cell towers to be damaged by high winds, fallen trees, and other conditions brought by extreme events, which cuts off communication and access to emergency responders. And in the occurrence of an extreme event, those will already likely be in high demand. And then lastly, this section goes into housing infrastructure and cost of living. So homes located in fire and flood-prone areas are at higher risk, not to mention that many of these areas are inhabited by marginalized communities. And then population increase is leading to an increase in housing costs and associated gentrification. The infrastructure and housing toolkit suggests improving roads with more permeable material that has a better chance of withstanding events such as heavy precipitation, and utilizing retrofitting incentive programs to help increase energy efficiency. So this could look like installing low-flow toilets, insulation, or home solar window tinting. I will hand it back to Jay now to finish the rest of the content sections and the slides with you.
All right, thank you, Pilar. Hello again, everybody. So I will be diving into our third content section, which is for Flagstaff's natural environment. We identified the most pressing concerns for Flagstaff's forests as being more intense wildfires, post-fire monsoon flooding, biodiversity loss, and bark beetle outbreaks. And we chose these to discuss because we truly think that policy and community actions can make a difference in creating resilient ecosystems. Some of the toolkit solutions that we've offered in this part of the document include increasing local biodiversity in the form of neighborhood native plant gardens. This can be seen in the downtown Heritage Square Butterfly Garden. We think that's a great example for the community to take home and use in either their own home gardens or their neighborhood gardens. Also increasing outreach for the already existing xeriscaping demonstrations that the city has been putting on. We also think this is a great resource as well. The second part of the toolkit is establishing more community campaigns for wildfire resilient neighborhoods. This could be in the form of self-assessments for actual neighborhoods, as well as wildfire checklists for homes and buildings. Also planting hardwoods instead of the more flammable pine species. Finally, in this toolkit is establishing rain gardens, rain barrels, and rain cisterns to maximize water use efficiency, which we'll get into our next content section, which is Flagstaff's water supply and resources. So the main vulnerability we see in Flagstaff is the fact that we're going to be in a moderate drought. This is because of a reduction in snowfall, which impacts the lack of groundwater recharge, which is the main source of drinking water for the city. So we see this as disproportionately affecting vulnerable communities such as the unhoused communities, as well as the immunocompromised. So some of the toolkit solutions we're offering in this section involve just water conservation by all residents and businesses to reduce strain on current water supply and infrastructure, just making a more resilient community. This could be in the form of participation in the WaterWise Business Certification Program, some more home water conservation techniques, like Pilar mentioned, low-flow toilets, low-flow shower heads, things like that. And then utilizing more drought-tolerant plants instead of more water-intensive plants to reduce lawn watering demand. And that brings us to our last content section, which is our tourism and recreation sector in Flagstaff. We see the most pressing impacts from climate change being in the winter, being reduction in snowfall, and in the summer being shifts in recreation patterns due to shifts in climatic events and more extreme climatic events. So in the winter, we could see some potential decreases in visitation due to lack of natural snowfall. And in the summer, the shifts in recreation patterns, they involve, we might see some decreases in heat waves or surrounding wildfires, but in general, there might be a net vast increase because of the amount of people visiting from, other areas that have more brutal summers like Las Vegas or Phoenix or Tucson. And this can cause a strain on the local economy as well as existing infrastructure such as roads and lodging. Some of the toolkit action items that we're proposing in this section involve economic and recreational diversification, kind of like covered in the last part of the council meeting, really bringing in more indoor activities that aren't so reliant on perfect climatic conditions. We also are suggesting increase in capitalization on the STEM community aspect of Flagstaff. It's a great aspect of Flagstaff, and really bring in more family-friendly environments, events, things like that. And then finally, continuing to support local business and community-based organizations to secure that local economy, residents and visitors alike. All right, and now we're going to go ahead and show you the introductory video of our series. This is a pretty short video, and we chose this because it's a great representation of the tone and themes throughout the series, as well as it kind of gives a brief overview of the series and the project itself.
As the impacts from global warming and climate change can be experienced around the globe, there comes community concern for public safety and well-being. With extreme weather events like floods and droughts, there comes millions of dollars of destruction. And as the intensity and frequency of these events increase, there comes to be an apparent impact on our lives and leaves us wondering who will be affected next.
The effects of climate change can be seen in the city of Flagstaff. In some winter seasons, the town receives little snowfall, which impacts freshwater cycles. However, in contrast, other winter seasons have received record snowfall, which resulted in subsequent demand for snow removal. Many wet winters are followed by strikingly dry springs and early summers, characterized by drought. This sets up our local forests to be vulnerable to wildfires, which was the case for the early summer of 2021 when many members of our community suffered from the thick layer of smoke and ash of the Raphael fire.
All of these challenges directly impact the City of Flagstaff's infrastructure, environment, community health, and economy. And as students attending NAU for the Climate Science and Solutions program, we have created a working resilience resource document, a community toolbox, and a video series which addresses adaptation strategies to address climate change.
Our approach includes providing resources and information for current climate conditions, engaging the community and local government to generate dialogue concerning climate impacts, and providing tools that local residents can utilize in order to build individual and neighborhood resiliency.
We invite you to stay tuned and join us for the rest of our video series on forest fire and ecosystem, water supply and resources, housing and infrastructure, tourism and recreation, and public safety. Thank you.
All right. And that brings us to the end of our presentation. I wanted to thank you all again for having us this evening. I wanted to give a special thank you to Jenny for being a great resource for ideas, instruction, feedback, all of it. She's been great. And I wanted to re-mention that this is a living resource and that this can be continually edited with more policy and community engagement and innovation. And then finally, we do plan to have this on the city website at the end of the week, following a rigorous peer review process that we've been going through for the last few weeks as a class. And we also plan to have the video series accompanying that on the city website as well. And again, thank you all for having us, and now we'll open it up for questions and feedback.
Thank you. This is awesome. I mean, why didn't we have these type of classes when I was in grad school? They just made us do calculus all the time. No, this is just so cool to have an actual toolkit, a means of action, as well as, I was impressed with the presentation in September, but you can see in just a couple months how you just took this to a completely new level, and that you took the input in from ourselves, from our commissions, and I will say feedback from our commissioners was so positive and excited about the work that you all are doing that I'm very impressed. But I want to open it up to the other council members here, and this is just really great work.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for that great presentation, and thank you all for all the work that you put into this. I'm wondering if throughout the course of creating this, whether you learned anything that surprised you.
I think I can speak on behalf of me, Pilar, and the rest of the project managers that compiling a project with a group of 30 grad students was definitely an exciting experience for all of us, learning how to construct the different content sections, how to divvy up the work. That was a great thing that we learned as a class and as a group. And then learning how involved the city is with already existing climate research, specifically climate adaptation research. There's already been a lot done, and that was really great to see.
I guess I would just say it was also difficult to work on a document with 30-something students being in our class. Obviously, not everyone is going to have this look exactly how they want it to look, but we were able to collaborate, and I think the way that we structured setting up this document and dividing into content groups allowed everyone to have a pretty equal say in it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Aslan.
Thank you very much, Mayor, and thank you all for being here. Thanks for taking time out of your Tuesday evening to hang out with us. Long past when we thought this might be scheduled for. That's pretty typical around here. I'm not going to pepper you guys with questions. I was a grad student once. I know how the routine goes after a presentation. You guys kind of get drilled. I think this is amazing stuff. You definitely know what you're doing. I'm really encouraged by the model that we're all demonstrating here of the city partnering with the local university to leverage all this incredible student resource that we have and to create a really neat partnership and do great things. And in fact, I do want to let you know that during your presentation, I've been texting with President Cruz, who was on the live stream and watching the entire thing, and he says proud of them. So he was able to check in and check that out, and it's just a really nice indication of the relationship we're slipping into as a city and as a university, and you guys are exemplifying the possibilities, so thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, President Cruz.
Councilmember Schmidt.
I'll jump in. Well done, Jay and Laura and team. And John, thank you for your leadership in helping this class along. And thank you all for being here tonight. Great work. This is a great resource guide. I love that it's a living document and that we can build upon this in the years to come. Couple comments. Let's see. I just also want to echo that I strongly appreciate the partnership with NAU and students, and I really hope we can continue to build upon this relationship for many, many years to come. Like Councilmember Aslan said, you all are such a huge resource for the community at large, and you all put together a really nice resource for us. But I also want to build upon this relationship in the sense of how can we have NAU and NAU students and faculty really lead the charge and be the example of the change that we're looking to see in our culture and in our community. You all have a lot of good energy and great ideas, and I think, as you get older, you get kind of firm in your ways and in your opinions and your approaches, and students still have an open mind. And so I think that when we talk about culture shift, you all are going to be the most receptive to that shift and embodying that change off the get-go. So I'd like to see how we can build upon this. John, that's kind of a comment to you moving forward. And thank you to Jenny and Nicole from our team for your time and leadership in working with this group. I know that it takes a lot of work, and I think that work paid off here tonight. President Cruz, thank you for tuning in. Let's build upon these efforts moving forward, and very excited about what has been done here today leading up to this. That's all I got. When the videos are live, Jenny, maybe you can send us a link to those via email. I'd love to just see those directly. I think those are great, and well done. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Sweet?
Thank you. I don't have a lot to add, but great job. And I look forward to seeing where this goes. And I really encourage you to make sure it's in all facets of our community. And thank you for all of your work on it.
Thank you so much.
Councilmember McCarthy?
Well, thank you. I think it's wonderful that young people are kind of taking the lead of where we need to go in the future. I do have a couple thoughts that I might mention. There's an elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about when it comes to climate change, and that is overpopulation. In my lifetime, the population, I'm one guy, I'm old, I admit. In my lifetime, the population of Arizona has gone up more than 10 to 1. The world population, in my lifetime, one person, is more than tripled. That is the major driver to climate change. And it seems that no one wants to talk about that. Back in the 70s, I read some books about zero population growth. So for zero population growth, each woman would have 2.08 children. In other words, 2, but some people are going to have a few more, obviously, to have zero population growth. All right, that's my first point. As far as the document itself, I read the whole thing, so it was worth reading, and I enjoyed reading it. My one criticism, well, I gave you some detailed, nitpicky stuff that I'm not going to waste time on here, just to help you edit it a little better. But a general comment I'd like to make, it seems that there was a lot of repeats. I'd be reading a paragraph, and it's like, wait a minute, I just read this same thing 2 pages before. And, Mark Twain once said that I wrote a long letter because I didn't have time to write a short letter. The idea is that writing a good document, sometimes shorter is better, and that's harder. And I also, when I was in grad school, my master's degree is in Master of Environmental Planning, land use planning. And we did a lot of projects, but we tended to have like 4 or 5 at the most students. This is actually a very learning experience to be able to work with this many students and get it done effectively and have everyone carry their own weight. But I think the side part of that is that we have this thing where there's so much repetition. And I would say if you went back and did it, someone edited it, they would try to, you don't want the reader to say, well, I just read about this 2 pages before. So I noticed it quite a few times that you talked about air conditioning and how Flagstaff may get air conditioning. Well, what's the alternative for that? Okay, I'm a mechanical engineer. I got an A in heat transfer. What does that mean? That means when I built my house here in Flagstaff, I insulated the hell out of it, which only cost me a few $100s extra. My house in the summer has literally never been hot. been in that house 18 years. It's never been hot. I go into my neighbor's house, and their house is 80 degrees. So what do? They add an air conditioner, which uses amazing amount of energy. So if people could insulate their houses well during initial construction at a minor increase in cost, significantly less than the one-time cost of an air conditioner, they would not be using energy in the summer to cool their house. So that's just one example. So overall, very positive, and I made some criticisms, but please take those in the tone of constructive criticism. Overall, I think it's a very valuable document. I think that all of the students learned a lot, and hopefully you guys put that to good use after you get out of grad school. So thank you, and keep up the good work.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilmember McCarthy. Well, I would actually, the one critique I had actually, Councilmember McCarthy touched on, which is regarding overpopulation. That's something that we don't really address well. And as this document develops, as our conversations develop over time, I think it's an important factor to discuss and include in this conversation reproductive rights, and to be able to ensure that we, I think the stats show that and I'm speaking as somebody with 4 children, that actually the most impact you can have for carbon emissions on the planet is actually having a child, as opposed to neutralizing all your carbon emissions. So that's something we don't talk about much, but I would like to see more involved in our conversations moving forward. But this document is amazing, this presentation is amazing, and just as for further discussions moving forward, that would be a good thing to include in the public health section. So, thank you. Anything else, Council?
Oh, shoot, I guess I'll say something real fast if you'll allow me to. And it's just a shout out to a quick rebuttal about the overpopulation comments. There's going to be a lot of people, I think, in this class who would argue, and I don't want to speak for anybody, but the real issue is the distribution of resources, and equal distribution of resources is far more of a problem than the privilege that we have of talking about overpopulation in the global north. But anyway.
Again, for future conversations,
that's a longer debate.
Get into
We'll have some other time.
Councilmember McCarthy.
They're both important.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for the great presentation, and yeah, looking forward to seeing those videos and everything else moving forward. So, thank you, Jenny.